she got her grade, but she still was able to stand up for herself and get her message out there without naming her school and without putting a target on this teacher's back, which I respect. All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Hit that like and subscribe, and let's party! So you guys may have heard about Olivia Krolczyk out of University of Cincinnati, who was doing a paper, and she got a 0, complete failure, because of one phrase that she used: biological woman. You probably have heard about this. If you haven't already, let's just check out the TikTok that it comes from. And then she actually has her own YouTube channel that I figured we'd check out and see what she has to say about the whole thing.
Big shout out to Melted Mind Media for getting the secret word in the last video. If you would like your own shout out, all you gotta do is wait till the end of the video, get the secret word of this one, and put it in the comments below. Let's get to it.
I got a 0 on a project proposal in my class because I used the term biological women, which is apparently not allowed anymore. She even said it was a good project proposal, but I got a 0 because I used this term that's exclusionary and not allowed anymore.
How dare you?
And I 100% know that this is like the most biased grade ever because my project is about transgenders competing in biological women's sports. How am I supposed to do my final project if I can't use the word biological women? But that's what my project is about.
You can't, bro. You can't. So obviously, you know, she got the 0. She did a bunch of these TikToks, and she didn't name the school. I don't know if she's wearing school clothes and anything, but she didn't name the school. She didn't name the teacher. And all she was saying is like, this is my experience, and I'm trying to go through it. Don't go harass the teacher. Don't go doing this. And then, of course, the teacher comes out and plays the victim.
So as you can see, once again, my professor did fail me for using the term biological woman and left a comment about it being exclusionary and contributing to heteronormativity. We'll get into that in just a moment.
What does that even mean?
So in this video, I'm going to touch on kind of like what the class was, the project, everything that happened. And most recently, my professor has come out and interviewed, so we'll talk about that a little bit. So the class was Women's Gender Studies and Pop Culture, and it was an expedited...
Women's Gender Studies and Pop Culture. Already your first mistake, but let's continue.
I did 3-week course, 3 credits in the summer. So I decided to take it because I'm taking like 34, 35 credits this summer. So I'm taking a lot, and they're all spread out, so it's not all at once. And it was nice to have a class that was quick, a lot of credits, you know, contributed to the DEI diversity and free elective requirements for getting your bachelor's in college.
For getting your bachelor's? Whoa, 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 whoa. There's actual DEI requirements to graduate? I thought that was like a business thing, a company thing. Wow. I didn't know that it makes sense. I just didn't know that that was a requirement of all students. Is that everywhere? Or is that just at her school? Please, guys, let me know what is going on with that.
College. A lot of colleges have that. If you're in college, you know that. You have to take all these kinds of courses, which is dumb. But, so anyway, I was like, okay, I'll just take that class because it looks easy. It'll be quick. Get it over with.
Well, now that I know that you have to take classes to get a DEI score, I would probably take some BS course like that too.
So anyway, in this class, we had a project, and it was 3 different parts. So the first part was 20 points, and it's called the project proposal, which is the one that I submitted and failed. And it was 20 points, and you had to pretty much outline what your project was about and how you were going to set it up. Pretty
basic project proposal type thing, and she seems like she's a little bit younger, and if they're doing part of the grade is how to do this, and you can see in the objectives on the thing it says learn or practice how to write a proposal. So that sounds like it is maybe a freshman or a sophomore course. For you to have that much of your grade dependent on the part that's not actually the project does make it seem weird, which makes this whole thing even more ridiculous. And then the next part is 30 points, which was the rough draft. And then the final part was 50 points, which was the final draft. So yeah, by the end of college, they're just like, give me the paper. I don't care what steps. And they do this earlier on in college so that you're able to do that later in college. So 100 points in total. The class is out of 200 points. It's a very quick class. It's not going to be a lot of points. So if you didn't catch that, this project, all the parts together, is half of the grade of the class. I knew that going in, that there were only going to be a couple assignments. I did not know that I was going to fail one of them and my grade was going to, but that happened. So anyway, the project, we had to write about feminism, and I will try to attach some of the directions here. So it's very broad, you know, use sources from class, like
some readings or videos that we had, been sent in class and use those in your project. So I chose my project to be about women's sports because that's something that's important to me, especially in today's society where those are pretty much being ruined. So I was an athlete for 9 years, so I can't even imagine what it's like to compete nowadays. You could literally be running alongside a man. I can't imagine, and I feel so horribly for the girls who dedicate their lives to sports, and then all of a sudden a mediocre man decides, hey, you know what? I want to be a woman. I'm going to go ahead and participate in women's sports. And I wonder how I just broke all of the records. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that you're a man.
Yeah, I mean, preach, girl, preach. That's, we haven't really heard too much about women's sports from women athletes outside of like the Leah Thomas situation, the Taylor Silverman situation. So very interesting to see that, she was not trying to like start a protest or anything. She just wanted to do this project because it was relevant to the class, it's relevant to the world, it was relevant to her. She gets a 0. I
don't know. I started my project like hundreds of years ago talking about, the first Olympics and stuff like that. And then the end of my project, it was in chronological order. So the end of my project was talking about how all of these rights and opportunities that women fought hard to get are being diminished because men are competing in biological women's sports. And that's where the issue was. So she said that it was exclusionary and contributed to heteronormativity.
What?
Yeah, that's like the whole point, is to be exclusionary in the same way that trans woman is exclusionary of real women.
That's a fantastic point. The entire reason we have categories in sports is to be exclusionary. The whole reason of women's sports is not because sometimes men like to wear dresses. Shout out to Tim Pool. That is not why we have women's sports. Women and female has always been, kind of the same thing. And so we just call it woman because female is a much more medical and dry academic term. A woman is, a nicer sounding word. And so that caught on organically, mind you, not because people are forcing people to say it or not say anything else. But now that we've gotten to a point where we're so separating sex and gender so much, it's creating this confusion where people who are quote unquote women, but are not female, feel entitled to women's only spaces. When of course, the entire point was always for them to be female only spaces.
It's a descriptive term. So I don't know why that's grounds to fail someone.
It's
and
not.
Then she said to focus on women's rights, not females. Well,
focus on women's rights, not females. First of all,
what?
And second of all, why? Was that the assignment? Just because you don't like the topic? That's grounds for failure? That's real education.
Well, a woman is an adult female, and a female is someone with XX chromosomes.
Yep.
So I don't know what to say to that. So I think it's ridiculous that she wanted me to change my topic because apparently I'm not allowed to talk about men being in women's sports. It's ridiculous that that's even a question. Women's sports, men's sports. It's in the name. Why are men in women's sports?
Like we said, it's not because sometimes men like to wear dresses. It's because there are inherent biological differences. We know this.
Have a separate category just for you. Just because you want to change your identity and dress a certain way, that's fine. But when you go and take these rights away from other people who've worked so hard for that quality, that's ridiculous. So following me getting the notification that I failed that assignment and my grade just tanked, I was honestly really shocked and confused that a teacher was actually failing me for a word. So I emailed her and she pretty much just reiterated that it was, doing all those fancy words. And
this was no mistake. This is part of the culture now. We try to act like it's just the fringe groups on the edge on Twitter that are doing this, that. No, this is a real person in the real world with real consequences. And I keep telling you guys, I think the pendulum is starting to swing the other way, or at least stopping in the direction that it's been going. But it's not just going to do it on its own. We, the people who understand rationality, understand why what's going on with this girl is not okay, need to continue speaking up. And if you agree, you will definitely find a home at the Indian Jesus Discord server where the party never ends. That's right, 24/7. We are in there talking it up, having a great time. And after every single live stream, we go in there for an after panel where you're not stuck behind your keyboard, but you're actually on screen with me and everybody else. Come and join us. It is a good time. See you there.
I was like, okay, that's still not really grounds to fail someone. It's kind of weird. And then she continued to go on and say, you know, it's transphobic to use that term, like whether I'm trying to be transphobic or not, it is transphobic. And I'm like, to say the term biological woman, I don't think that's transphobic, but
yeah, and I mean that's literally what it is now. Anything that this is the semantic obfuscation that we talk about nonstop. She's determined that it is non-inclusive. And so anything that's non-inclusive is bad. And so anything that I call non-inclusive, regardless of the reality, it doesn't matter that I'm just stating a fact. It doesn't matter that I'm reading out of a medical textbook. If you don't like it, you get to be the ruler. You get to be the arbiter of what is right. That's the game that they have set up, and that is the game that we are playing.
Obviously, she has an agenda and it's been brainwashed into her. And she also said something along the lines, I don't remember exactly her wording, but it was something about Western civilization determined that like sex was at birth, or I don't know what it was.
It says, to answer your previous email from Friday evening, the definition of sex you referenced is socially constructed. It is constructed by Western understandings of science that posit a, quote, female has XX chromosomes and a male has XY. However, this is scientifically untrue. Is it though? Is it though? I've been, I've been keeping up on the issue, and I understand that, sex can be bimodal and not necessarily binary, where it's not directly one or the other, but there are, there could be those intersex people. You could have masculine females and feminine males, but at the end of the day, there's two groups. There might be a slight overlap at the edges, but there are two distinct groups. And for saying that, she failed. And goes on to say, you are correct in some of your reasoning. However, sex as a binary category is also socially and culturally created, and the binary reasoning that you use does contribute to heteronormativity and transphobia, not to mention the erasure of the intersex community. What are these people smoking? Again, we want to use the test of, if you were to go out and explain this opinion to some random person on the street, would they agree with you? Or would they look at you like, what are you saying? What are you talking about? Sex as a binary is socially constructed, and that contributes to heteronormativity and transphobia. Even if that's your opinion, then just blurting it out like that is not the way to convince somebody. Then you're just saying things. You have to have some type of grounding for this. I haven't done a lot of research in gender studies. Feel like I could do better stuff with my time. But all that I know seems like everything is based on undermining scientific inconsistencies and building those into entire identities. That's all I've seen, is that this, they mentioned intersex here. And the idea that you're intersex now obliterates the binary that was once man and woman. And I mean, you can hold that opinion if you want, but again, go out to a random street corner and ask somebody if they agree. I mean, these days, they just might. But this is not how normal people think. And if you believe that you are correct and that humanity has had this wrong for so long, this is not the way to do it.
I was like, okay, can I just do this topic, whatever? And she's like, yeah, just turn it in by the end of like the class. Like the due date is the last day of class.
And so I don't blame this girl here. I don't blame Olivia for, she's in that situation. She can't change, the culture by really doing much at all. And she does need the grades and all that. So it does make sense for her to change topics. But we would expect that, okay, well, there's nothing I can do, so I'm just going to not do anything. And she changed the topic. She got her grade, but she still was able to stand up for herself and get her message out there without naming her school and without putting a target on this teacher's back, which I respect. I get it. I would, it would be a much stronger story if she was like, I don't care, I'm going to take the 0 and, and all of that. But again, we talk all the time about ideals and realistic expectations. And it's not really realistic to expect every college kid who's paying to go to school to just fail out of classes for the betterment of language. I get it. This is why we, as people who are not Olivia, have to blow this up as big as we can.
So I'm like, that's in 2-3 days. So you're going to give me 2 to 3 days to redo this entire thing. But
wow.
then it clicked. Like all of a sudden I was like reading that email that she sent and I was like, wait,
She wants you to fail.
if I redo the project with a whole new topic, I am literally just giving in to her. Like I am letting her be this way. I'm letting her suppress free speech. I didn't want to be that student because I've done it for so long. I've done it throughout my entire college education. And so many students are just like me who, you know, your teacher.
Yeah, we've all had to. We've all, when it was coming down the pipe, there was all times, especially when political correctness was coming about, that there's things that we always thought were fine, but other people are telling me, okay, it's not, you know, acceptable anymore. So we'll change this, we'll change that. We try to be sensitive. But at a certain point, you realize it's not about sensitivity. It's about control. And unfortunately for her, she didn't see that until that very moment. So she's got some text messages on the screen here. What does it say? I guess it's from her. It says, so I go to, I guess, the professor, and I wrote a paper on the negative effects of woke ideology, mainly the problem with calling everything racist. And she gave me a 0. It was an asynchronous class, so I never really got a feel for the professor. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I think that, you know, she was talking about how it's a summer course and, you know, it's only 3 weeks, so that might be, but in any case, she doesn't know the teacher that well. It tanked my grade from a 96 to a 72. The directions for the paper were super vague, too. When I appealed the grade, the department chair told me that I had to use the course-approved data and stuff. Basically, the data that they approved. The science. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. Their data. The science. The next one says, I guess this is the response. I can't believe they gave you a 0 for using the word, it's a phrase, biological woman. I got a 0 for debunking the they, them, non-binary BS and got kicked out of my English college class. Or maybe it's English college class. So I don't know who these are from, but you know, kind of people just telling the same thing. The trans rainbow mafia, Antifa, has pretty much infiltrated our school system in 2020 because before COVID, none of this pronoun LGBTQIA plus woke BS was mainstream in our schools. So the kids are waking up. The kids are waking up. I keep telling you guys, this has gone too far and the kids are not taking it. It's not cool. For millennials, this was cool. Now it's so corporatized that if you're 14, maybe not now, but in another 5 years, if you're 14, being non-binary is going to be such a millennial thing to do. I'm hoping. So let's dive back in.
Teacher has an agenda, so you just kind of write to appeal to them just to get the A. And I am so guilty of that, and I'm so ashamed to say that I have done that. But at that point, I decided to email one of the offices at my school. I didn't know who to reach out to. I was like, I don't know who is going to help me. Like, everyone I talk to, you know, they're probably not going to be on my side, but
yeah, and I went to a very small private school for college, and there was still a lot of that with politics and like who do I talk to and all that stuff. So at University of Cincinnati, where it's a state school, there's a lot of bureaucracy there. So I'm surprised she even, you know, got anywhere in touch with anybody.
I just branched out and I was like, okay, I'm going to email the gender equity office. So I sent them everything that happened. I sent a statement.
So she's saying to the equity office, she just said, to whom it may concern, I'm reaching out to find out who I should talk to regarding an incident that is occurring with one of my professors. Melanie Nipper. So there we go. Melanie Nipper, the worst gender studies teacher in all of America. Maybe not, but at least for now, she's the one we know of. Olivia continues, I have submitted an assignment following the rubric and syllabus standard and was told I had a, quote, solid proposal, but was assigned a 0% because I used the term, quote, biological women in my essay. The teacher claimed that it was transphobic and that I used the term biological women when referring to those who were born as female with XX chromosomes. After many emails back and forth, the teacher will not accept my project and is standing by the 0% unless I change my project topic. This is a clear representation of her political and personal agenda, which is not okay in an academic environment. The fact that she even told me that my assignment was, quote, solid means that she knew my project was academically very good, but because my wording did not line up with her beliefs, she assigned me a 0.
Bingo!
There are only a few assignments in this course, as it is a Maymester, again, the summer thing, a Maymester class. and now I'm failing due to this. I will attach screenshots, so on and so forth. So she's doing the work. She's trying to go about this the right way. What else could she have done? What else could she have done?
And of like all the things that I thought, I sent all my emails, the project, everything. So I hadn't heard from them in a while, and it wasn't until my first interview on live TV with Newsmax that
So see, the school doesn't care. The school doesn't care, but once their name is getting some attention, it's like, uh-oh, now we gotta address this.
I finally heard from the school the next day, because they were probably like, oh shoot, maybe we should do something. This is turning into something bigger.
Yup.
And I was like, yeah, you probably should do something. So I eventually spoke with someone, and I was assigned a new professor to grade my assignment.
There
and
you
I
go.
ended up getting an A, and the whole
Hey!
class ended up getting an A. And
That's huge. That's huge. So I didn't know the actual details of the assignment. I knew that the teacher came out and claimed victim about all of this, but the fact that she actually wrote to the office and did get the grade overturned, being able to stand her ground, being able to stand up to the woke mob that manifest in her teacher. I mean, shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Olivia. If all of us could have a little bit of what Olivia had in her fighting this, then we would be in a much better position. Every time we have this conversation about, what's happening in schools, you bring up an example, a real example, and the people on the other side who are just thinking that this stuff doesn't exist or is, just a handful of cherry-picked incidences. Every time you add a new one, every time it happens again and again and again and again and again. You're like, oh, well, that's just once. Like, grains of sand make a heap. Statistically significant evidence comes from anecdotal evidence put together. It's one anecdote plus one anecdote plus one anecdote until you have enough to call it evidence. And I don't know what the standard is for these people to understand that this is happening, that our institutions are ideologically captured. How many examples do you need?
And collaborated my story. I went out of my way to hide her identity because, like I said, it's not my goal to do that. I wasn't trying to expose her. That wasn't the point. It's the bigger picture here with what's happening in schools.
Yeah, the bigger picture. But let's take a think. Let's take a think about the type of person who would give a 0 for this circumstance. Then let's think about why they would want to be in the paper. Victimization. Somehow, she turned herself, the teacher who failed this girl for no reason, turned herself into the victim.
And my story was just one example of so many that are out there. And I know that because I've had hundreds of messages of people like, you know what, this has happened to me. This has happened to me in my school, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow.
I mean, you could pause and read all these if you want.
This is happening to a lot of people.
Bingo!
So she actually came out and interviewed with the Cincinnati newspaper, and I'll add it here. But
so the headline is, a lot to handle. UC professor at center of TikTok controversy speaks out. It's a lot for me to handle. For me, I wrote that 0 and it just hurt so much by the time I finished. Give me a break.
She released her name. I had no intention of doing it. She is trying to be like the ringleader of the transgenderism movement, something like that. I don't know. She probably realized I had like a wave of, social media presence for a little bit.
That's what it is. These people are terminally online. These people have no values except power and social media attention. And so when she saw that Olivia was getting attention, she's like, hey, let me ride them coattails. All right.
Probably like, ooh, I want to get in on that, which is fine. She has every right to do that, but it's just kind of weird to me that she would come out, confirm my story, and then proceed to out herself and pretty much the school that, hey, I've done this to other students before. That's what really bothers me. And honestly, it kind of upset me when I read that because I was like, I knew you did it to me, and I know this is happening in other schools, but the fact that she actually came out and said, hey, this has happened with students before in my class, that's really sad that she just admitted that she is trying to suppress people's free speech in her class.
Yeah, and that, let's go back real quick. Similar incidents had occurred in the past, said Nipper, who has taught at UC since 2021. Of course, a new teacher, not somebody who's been there for 15, 20 years, somebody who's been there for 2. It goes on to say, when a student uses, quote, and outdated terminology, Nipper said, she feels it is necessary to correct those mistakes. Not a 0 for the course, Nipper clarified. Just a 0 for half the grade, which will cause you to fail.
It's really sad that she just admitted that she is trying to suppress people's free speech in her class. And I feel so bad for the other students that this is happening to in her class. Like, I wish I could contact them and be like, hey, tell me what happened. But I don't know who they are, unfortunately. And not only that, but she also said something along the lines of, I support free speech, but that ends when I decide you're using outdated terminology.
Yeah, so she goes on to say, the blurb here goes on to say, similar incidents have taken place in Nipper's class before, when students use, quote, outdated terminology in a project, the professor told the Inquirer. Nipper said she has never failed a student in the course for using a terminology, but does award a 0 for an assignment. Melanie Rose Nipper admitted to the outlet that she awarded Olivia a 0 for the use of biological women, stating that the right of free speech and debate ends when you are intentionally or unintentionally participating in a systemic harm of some kind. No, it doesn't. Sorry, I don't know who told you that, but that's wrong. Although Nipper said she agrees classrooms should be places for debate and discussion, that ends when you are, quote, intentionally or unintentionally participating in a systemic harm of some kind. Again, wrong.
So apparently my teacher gets to determine when a term is outdated, which I didn't know she could do that. That's pretty cool power to have.
Yeah, you know, those white, educated, liberal women, they can do anything.
And so it's also very hypocritical to be like, hey, I support free speech. I support everyone sharing their ideas and opinions, but I get to decide when that ends. That's not what free speech is.
Nope.
And not only that, but she's also violating a lot of UC's policies, which I highlighted in a statement that I sent to the dean. She, UC has a specific policy where it says you're not supposed to suppress free speech, even if it's like offensive to other people. Like, that's not what you're allowed to do. And she is.
Yeah, I'm not even going to read that thing, but a lot of colleges will have this thing that does say you can't stifle free speech because that's what the school is for. So definitely go check out Olivia's video and her channel. I linked both in the description below. I thought this was an important story to share, even though I'm sure that you guys saw the TikToks and saw other stories. I wanted you to hear directly from her because these are the people that are starting to, when I talk about people are starting to wake up, these are the people who have kind of known that this wasn't right for a long time, but, just want to go along to get along and are starting to finally realize that you cannot comply your way out of tyranny. It will not pass you by. Unfortunately, they have initiated a game that is zero sum. Somebody will lose and somebody will win. And unfortunately, we have to play on those grounds. If you don't play, you are going to lose. If you don't play, we are all going to lose. So all you got to do is pay attention to stuff like this, stand up for what you believe in, and live out your values. It's not that complicated and may not be that easy, but it surely is not complicated. Well, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much. Once again, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. You can get a shout out in the next video for putting the secret word in the comments below. Let's make the secret word Olivia. Shout out to Olivia. Put that in the comments below for a shout out. Until then, guys, we are out of here. Peace.